Good evening. Welcome back to Mi Gente on Air. Thank you for tuning in on the social media platforms. I want to invite everybody to come on in to the show because this is your show. That's what Mi Gente on Air is about, my people. And we want you to leave comments. If you have a question for our guests or to myself, please be involved with this show. It's about Latino culture and concerns and contributions. And we're going to celebrate the arts tonight because that's what's happening. There's a new vibe happening in Old Town Saginaw, and I'm excited to share all the information that we're going to share tonight. So, my guest is John Vasquez, owner of Saginaw Tattoo Company, and Cassi Zimmerman, who is so what a gal. She really makes things happen in this area, and she's with the Great Mural Project, and I'm so excited to have them both here to inform everybody what's happening in the art world in Saginaw and Old Town and the greater Great Lakes Bay region. So join us here at Mi Gente on Air.
Welcome to Mi Gente on Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Good evening, and tonight we have another edition of Mi Gente on Air, the show that highlights Latino concerns, contributions, and culture. The art world is a big part of this show, from the dance groups, the music, to the Latino food. And tonight, we are going to center on the art world of Saginaw, with a new vibe happening with murals, graffiti, and art with the Great Mural Project and the second annual showdown next month. Have you noticed the painting utility boxes around town, or the new murals at the health department, or the Habitat for Humanity mural? It's beautiful, and it's picking up steam. In the center of all this is artist John Vasquez from the Saginaw Tattoo Company. He, along with Cassi Zimmerman from the Great Mural Project, are my guests tonight, so we can talk about the arts. Welcome to Mi Gente on Air, John and Cassi. How are ya?
Good. How you doing?
Great, great. You know, I keep hearing this name, John Vasquez, and it's amazing to me that we have not actually met until tonight. But I am so happy that Jamie Forbes from the Great Mural Project, a cohort of Cassie's, introduced me to you, and we've been texting. And I said, you know, we really need to do a show on what's happening with this new vibe that's happening in Old Town Saginaw, and the art world is part of that. So, John, tell me a little bit about who you are, what your background and history is.
I'm John Vasquez. I was born and raised in the city of Saginaw, and I run Saginaw Tattoo Company for the last 5 years. And yeah.
You're at the heart of this whole art thing happening. And I say that, you know, generously, right? Because we know that there are all kinds of different artists that are involved. But for some reason, I think because of the showdown, you're kind of at this helm. And it really coincides very nicely with the Great Mural Project that Cassi is involved with. So, Cassi, it's so important for us, for my audience, to hear, what is the Great Mural Project?
The Great Mural Project is a grassroots organization that started back in 2017. There's 3 of us who essentially come up with a project every year. We apply for grants, we find a location, and work it out to make so that Saginaw artists can get their art out there in the community.
Now, when you say Saginaw artists, you're talking like John and all those that are artists in the area. But we had Cassi back here last year with Freddie Diaz, who was from Southwest Detroit, and he did the La Estrella mural over there on Michigan Avenue. And tell me a little bit about that, what the response has been to that mural.
So La Estrella was one of my favorite murals. Every single year, it seems like our project is my favorite project that we've done. But La Estrella was the first time where we really went into the Latino community in Saginaw and really tried to bring out that culture into a mural that probably had twice as many people as we normally have at any mural reveal. It was widely accepted, widely marketed and televised on a bunch of different media outlets. We actually often are reaching out and trying to get people to push out information about our projects, and that one seemed to pick up speed way quicker than we normally have any speed on any of these
Well,
projects.
you know why that was because within that mural, Freddie, he portrayed food. There was food, Mexican food. And don't we talk about that all the time on this show? If you have good food at any event, it's going to be successful.
That's a good point.
That's what I always say, right? But, at the heart of that was the Jimenez family who owned Las Estrellas. And I think there was a lot of passion with that one because it was something that within the Latino community, we have grown up with knowing that bakery. And so that was really at the heart of, our hearts and why we supported it so readily, but not just us, but the greater community did as well. John, you're an entity within the Old Town area. I have my business there as well. It's a beautiful area. We know this. Tell me what it's been like for you with that business, with the Saginaw Tattoo Company.
I definitely underestimated opening a business and how much work it actually takes and consistency, and it being a storefront. I didn't realize that, hey, I had to be there every day and actually have shop hours. So that was a change of pace for me because I was mainly by appointment, and now I'm back to a by appointment, but consistency and showing up every day were big things on the list.
And how long ago did you open there?
2017.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I want to bring this up. I started Mi Gente magazine there, my office, in 1996. I was a year into publishing, but I started in the old Ipple building when the old Ipple building was still intact before the fire. And I've seen through the years, Old Town, how it's grown. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, we're talking about this new vibe in Old Town. When I went in there, I remember it was kind of gritty. It was kind of old business that didn't seem to want to bring in new business at that time in 1996. This is my experience, at least. And it has grown, and we have got some great bars that are in the area. We see that continually growing. And now today, I see a lot more young entrepreneurs who are making Old Town successful. It's changed that vibe. I don't see it as gritty anymore. I see it as a real thriving metropolis within the Saginaw area. I walk down there all the time. It's exciting for me to always see this change. And I have seen the Saginaw Tattoo Company. I've never seen you out there, though. That's why I'm wondering why we never connected. But how has it been for you as that new business, in the Old Town area? What is your vision and what have you seen that's happening since 2017?
I think a lot of it's young entrepreneurs. And I think the old business model has changed a lot. We have to be very self-involved as far as promoting our own products and bringing people in, running our own events. There's not a huge community around it, so it's very localized now. Yeah. And I think that helps us out bringing new customers in. Tourism is a big thing. I have a lot of clients that come from out of town and they're like, I love this area. And I'm like, man, what are you looking at exactly? But I can see it now and it's changing quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I came from Detroit, living in Detroit for 10 years prior to when I went into the old Ipple building. And it was vastly different than it is today. Although, you still have the main buildings there that are in, where Fort Saginaw was. And I'm such a proponent of Old Town because I think it is a great community. And I've seen like even the Old Town in Lansing, they got a great, and at the heart of the Lansing Old Town is murals.
Yep.
And I would love to see that more in Old Town Saginaw because I've passed by, the murals that have been there for say like the last 10 years. And I said, wow, we really need some new murals. We need some new life here because that's what I think happens. And I've seen resistance in the past. You and I have talked about this, but what has it been for you like as an artist now in the area? And then tell us a little bit too, Cassi, about the Great Mural Project, and because you have a mural there as well, right? By Fralia. So tell us, John, what's it been like for you now as you're seeing this as an artist?
I think when I first started doing public art was way back when I was in the Behringer building downtown, and we did a rally in the alley, and we were painting boards, putting them on abandoned houses. Fast forward 15 years later, none of these houses are here anymore. We need new spots to paint, and I feel like the art scene has really picked up momentum as far as recognizing independent artists and not it just being an echo chamber of, well, this is this artist, we're going to go with their direction and that's it. It's larger acceptance these days. So
That's great. That's really great to hear. And how has that been for you and your group?
Yeah, I agree. I think that people are a lot more open to art, even maybe slightly before COVID, but COVID has really heightened people's, I guess, respect for being outdoors, just seeing things, smelling things, the simple things in life, and art comes with that. And I think that small business has also really pushed up in that way too. And an artist, really, they are their own small business, and what they create is their product. So just like you mentioned with that Fralia's mural, the way that the Great Mural Project has always worked is because we are grant funded. We don't have somebody dictating what that mural is going to look like. We always get a community group that is in charge of throwing ideas at the artist, and then the artist can kind of interpret those with their artistic ability as well to put that mural up. And so far we really have not had any pushback. And again, we've only been doing murals since 2017, so maybe that's why, because we weren't there back in the 90s. Yeah, it's been very accepting in Saginaw for us.
Well, it seems like it's come a long way then for sure. John, you're part of what the Great Mural Project is doing now with these utility boxes. Where's your mural? Because I've seen it, and tell me your experience with that.
The box that I just did is on Warren and Johnson. I think that's correct. And that's right, kitty corner from Stars. So I've got to hang out with everybody at the bus stop for the last couple of days, which has been a lot of fun, actually. There's some wild stories every day. So I had a good time, actually. Besides, I was out there on Saturday and it was like 93 degrees. And I was a couple hours in, I started going, all right, maybe I'm a little delirious and I need to go home. So I ended up finishing it up today.
Wow, yeah, it was definitely hot, very muggy, Saginaw in August. And we've got a picture of some of your cohorts there that have painted those. There's 15 of those, correct, around the city of Saginaw. There's John's there with the wave in the sun. And tell us what your idea was in representing that. What were you trying to represent there?
We're surrounded by water, so that's pretty helpful. And it definitely played on the theme of it being crazy hot out. So I did a sun up and moon up on the other side. So it's kind of like a duality piece a little bit.
Wow. Okay. And how long did that take you?
Longer than I think I thought it was going to. Probably somewhere around 10 hours.
10 hours. Well, I think that they all did them pretty fast because I'm driving around. I seen the one on Michigan Ave and I'm just like, wow, they just started that and it's already done. So, I mean, was there a time limit on those or was it just the weekend?
They had 2 weeks. So some of them actually aren't finished. They have until this Friday. And a few people had different time constraints, and really the permit that we had to get for the city lasts through the weekend. So there were a couple that are probably still going to be painting all weekend.
So you both come from a younger generation from my generation. And is there an acceptance more, do you think, of especially graffiti art? And John, you kind of can speak to this, I know. Do you see a change now as opposed to, say, pre-COVID?
I think it's more of a generational thing. So I would say someone that's maybe 10 years older than me is used to seeing writers on the wall, more or less, like putting letters up, numbers, train cars. And what's changed is I think a lot of kids are coming out of art school even and looking for a direction, and painting large is a lot of fun. So I feel like it's like an easy direction to go in, and it's just a shift of generation, you know?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I walk around Old Town quite a bit and I've seen, a lot of changes, and the Great Mural Project has been big with that in 2020. Tell us about what you did in Old Town because that's some of it's still there. Some of it is no longer
Mhm.
there because of cars and what have gone on the pavement. Tell us about that. And then, because each year you have some big project, right? Was
Mhm.
that was the big project for 2020?
So in 2020, we ended up doing two because we applied for Bloomberg Philanthropy's $25,000 grant to do asphalt murals and just didn't think that we were going to get it. So we actually applied with a backup project. So we also had a mural go in that year under the Court Street Bridge on the east side on Ojibwe Island. But the asphalt mural project, we had an entire event over a weekend in September, and we hired over 20, I think it was 21, 22 artists between the three intersections of Michigan and Court, Hamilton and Court, and then Fordney and Ezra Rust. And they painted the entire intersections. And the whole theme that year was about diversity and just celebrating Saginaw community, which kind of always is tied into our murals. So we had a pretty wide mix of people, all from the Saginaw area. Some of them we had a couple from Frankenmuth and a couple from out in the township, but all from Saginaw County.
Yeah, yeah. And John, were you part of that as well?
I was not a part of that
No?
project. Nope.
So, John, you have started what you're calling the Showdown, and this happened in 2021 in the fall, the first annual. The second annual is coming up September 17th. Tell us how the genesis of that started and why it started.
Part of it was cleaning the area up. There was a lot of glass, trash.
Yes.
The lot to the south of the bridge was devastated, so that took majority of the work of cleanup, pulling weeds, and then really just bringing attention to the area, because like Cassie said, they painted the other side of the bridge as well, and it's kind of a tie between, and it's right in the middle of the city, so it's kind of like our heart, and our identity. And I think bringing attention to it can bring attention to the city of Saginaw too.
Yeah, and I think it did. And so tell me, how did that first one go? Because the specifics is you have up to 10 artists come in,
10
and
artists,
then they've
yep.
got 8 hours to paint a mural.
Yep, 12 to 8. And basically we provide paint. I'll have the spaces primed, ready to go. And really no constraint, just nothing hateful, no nudes, that kind of deal.
And so who are the artists that are coming to the area? Like, are they people predominantly Saginaw based, or
It's a 50-50. So last year we actually, when Freddie was painting that mural, I went down. I was like, "Hey man, what's up? You want to come down to the Showdown?" And he was one of my hype artists last year. This year I'm actually having Kevin, that just did the county building, and the Flint crew out. So last year was kind of Detroit crew. This will be Flint crew this year, and then the rest will be from the city of Saginaw.
So let's talk about Kevin. We got to give him his props, because that is a beautiful mural there at the health department building. And I know many of you have seen that. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that came into development?
So that was commissioned from the health department, and it's actually a very symbolic mural. You can see that the birds on the bottom are in a cage. So it's actually supposed to represent addiction.
Recovery through addiction.
Yes. So those are the people who feel trapped. They don't know where to go. And then you slowly see them flying up to being free birds. And that's when they're fully recovered and able to feel that release of the cage, I guess.
Wow. And he did it in 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's insanely talented.
Yes. Now, we said Kevin. Give me his full name and where's he from?
Kevin
Burdick.
Scrapes Burdick.
Oh.
Yeah. Scrapes is his street
Scrapes.
name, So
And he's from Flint?
Flint, Fenton area. He does a lot of stuff with the Flint Art Project. So
Okay. Yeah. And that gives a good segue into the Flint Mural Project. I have seen some great murals down there. The Frida one is phenomenal. The Frida Kahlo that they've done near the Latin Center there. Tell me about the connection between the Flint Mural Project as well as the Saginaw Mural Project.
So Flint Mural Projects is everything that we wish we could be. They are very well funded. They bring in artists from all over the world. And so when we started, we hadn't heard about the Flint Mural Project, but very quickly into it, probably already in 2019, we heard about them and started reaching out. And from them, we actually found Kevin. We had Kevin do that same year in 2020 underneath the Court Street Bridge on Ojibwe Island. He partnered with a Saginaw local artist and he painted all of the animals that are underneath the bridge. So he did that. And then, so he's dotted all over Saginaw now.
Wow.
And the greatest thing about the partnership with Flint is they're so awesome. We've had people go down to Flint. I mean, you did a mural in Flint, right?
Yep, I did a mural in May, and then I'll be doing one in October. So definitely helping me out too.
Mhm.
Which one was yours in the
I
Flint
did
one?
this 25-foot raccoon. So it's
Oh.
over on Stevenson and Flushing. So it's right downtown
There
near
we
Hurley.
go. Look at how beautiful is the
Yep.
detail of that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Wow. That is you there, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you know, the good thing about, I understand, I think Jamie told me, was how they are helping Saginaw with the paints.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, they get really good discounts on paints. And so they've been able to share that with us as well, where they can buy it straight from the wholesalers. So that's one of the main costs that we have besides the artist fee is the materials. Often we don't pay for the location. We work that out with the owner. Generally, whatever permits we need to get from the city will waive those fees. It's just supplies and then paying the artist.
So let's talk about that, because you hit on something there that, you know, I think in the past, you know, there wasn't too much funding for an artist to do this type of work. And I think that's something that, you know, in the day that we live today, it's important that they, if they're commissioned, they're going to get paid. They're going to, you know, this is your livelihood in some cases. Tell me about that.
I think that that's one of the biggest issues maybe that has been happening in Saginaw is people want murals and they don't want to pay for it. They think that's an artist's hobby or something.
Yeah, a lot of the
That's
time.
their whole job.
Yep.
How can you not get paid for something that you're spending? I mean, John did this utility box and it took him 10 hours. Imagine that 25-foot raccoon. I mean, you're not going to not get paid for that.
Right. What is your take, John?
As far as making money,
Well, no, about the whole idea. Well, I guess that's what it comes down to. But
Do you,
you
want
know,
to make money, John? Or
I think things have changed.
I think I said in another interview, I feel like Saginaw's never been a place for fancy galleries, and street art is our gallery around here, and putting these murals up gives us our identity and who we are and shows our story, and it's for the public. And I think that's really important because you're not containing it into a space that's heavily curated, and you know, a lot of people don't get a whole lot of opportunity to do that, and this is kind of broadening the horizon basically.
Right. And see, now I know, like, the Flint Mural Project that came about as a result of the water crisis, and you know, the negativity that was going on with that and how Flint was perceived to the world, because I mean, it really was, you know, something that was portrayed to the world. And I believe the Flint Mural Project, and they have, like you said, they have artists from all over the world, renowned artists, and I think it gave it an identity. You know, I mean, because they're really up there in terms of producing these beautiful murals. And I've gone down there, you know, and walked around and looked for them, and I believe there's like over 200.
Yep, 200 of them.
200.
Yep. Probably more, because they just had a mural festival in June, so I think they had 20 new artists out.
So when we look at Saginaw as a whole, not just Saginaw Old Town, although that's kind of where, you know, there's a lot of activity, is that what we're trying to do with this?
Yes.
In these projects?
100%.
Wow. So that's great. That's wonderful.
I think what really works for Joe too is he's got this huge old house.
Joe?
Yeah,
Who?
Joe's in charge of Flint Art Project.
Okay.
And Flint Community Foundation, so he's really good at just fundraising, and he's got this big old house, so anybody that's coming in from out of town has a place to stay, has a car to use, feeds them the whole time. Anything they need, he's there. You know, he's running around town. You need Coca-Cola, I'm going to get you a Coca-Cola right now, kind of thing. So I think if we can play off that idea, of it almost being an artist in residency, we can pull people in from around the world, no problem, especially it being Saginaw, Flint, Detroit, and us all having the same identity as being, the iron, Rust Belt town. So
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because that's something that's really key when you talk about the connections between Flint, Detroit, Saginaw. I mean, we've all lost so many jobs as, the automakers at one time, but I think that, as an area, we're stronger together.
yes.
Oh,
Definitely. Yeah. So we're going to go into commercial here right back, and we'll be back here with Cassi Zimmerman from the Great Murals Project and John Vasquez from the Saginaw Tattoo Company and the Showdown, the second annual Showdown, September 17th. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
So we're here on social media, and I haven't seen any comments on this group here. And is it working, John? I always have to ask my producer, because we've had some problems lately with this, but we invite everybody to come on into the room and listen to this great idea of art and hitting Saginaw, Old Town, and Saginaw community as a whole. It's a wonderful thing. And I'm so happy to be able to walk around and see all the development, from the mural that was at the health department by Kevin, and the mural at the Habitat for Humanity by Bridgeport's own one of the students of Manuel Lopez, who was my art teacher. I forgot what his name is offhand. And there's just a new vibe that's happening, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to center on that new vibe happening in Old Town Saginaw. So if you've got a comment or any questions, please feel free to come into the room. I know you're out there, and we hope that you will contribute to Mi Gente on Air, because that's what this show is about. So we'll be right back, and we're going to go back into Mi Gente on Air.
This is Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to Mi Gente on Air, where we will promote this show as Latinos culture and Latino concerns and contributions, but it's for the greater region, the Great Lakes Bay region, which is so important to all of us as we kind of unite to promote this region as a great place to live. And that's what I'm seeing happening in the longevity that I've been here for 25 years. I have not seen an upswing with our Old Town area like I have in the last year or so. And I'm talking about from, our last show, we just had a food truck that has moved into the area. There's been 2 food trucks in the last 2 weeks that have come into Old Town Saginaw. So there's good food, as well as, all the other restaurants that have been there in the past. And then we've got this upswing with the art world and what's happening. And John Vasquez is kind of heading that up here with a showdown that's going to be happening on September 17th. And Cassi Zimmerman, my other guest here tonight, she is promoting the Great Lakes Bay, I was going to say, but the Great Mural Project, which is just phenomenal in what you're doing. You, Jamie Forbes, and I know there's another girl,
Dawn Goodrow.
I should know that name because I had a girlfriend by that last name, Goodrow, as in kindergarten. But it's amazing what you three have done, because if we didn't have you three at the helm, I don't know if artists like John here would be getting that attention that seems to be happening with the artists now. And what is your take, John, on that in terms of artists like yourself, and I know you must know many of them in the area. What is the feeling or the vibe that they're feeling?
I think everybody is feeling really good about it. I think working as a group makes a huge difference, and trusting the process, putting the time in, doesn't happen overnight. All of those things combined is where we're at today. And I think the Great Mural Project and what I'm doing, we're all the same group. So it's not, there's really, no competition, and we're just trying to help each other. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and I want to say Great Mural Project is by far not the first one at all to do anything, but yeah, I agree that there's something about Saginaw, and I'm actually not from Saginaw, but this community is so accepting, and if you have a good idea and you're willing to work for it and push forward, even if there's somebody else doing something similar, there just is that camaraderie here.
Yeah.
Which is definitely apparent in the art world.
And I see it not just in the art world, but in the entire community. Because, like I said, I've been here 25 years. Well, I was born and raised in Saginaw, but I went and lived in Detroit for 10 years. Came back in 1996, and it's vastly different today from 96. When I came into Old Town, here I was, this Mexican guy, and he was starting a publication. I had some resistance. I mean, I remember it was difficult, and maybe one day I'll do a show on that, but that would be negative, right? So I want to make sure we're going in the right direction and we're doing positive stories. But, I love Old Town, and I say that all the time. And I think that this whole acceptance in the art world, there's a change. There's definitely, the pendulum has shifted, and I think it's for the positive of our community. And I think whenever you have diversity, and when you have diversity in art, and you're not kind of dictated as to what is going to be presented, it's beautiful, because it's an expression of the artists. They're coming in and they're showing who Saginaw is. And John, what is your take? How do you feel when you are maybe commissioned to do a mural, or, you're doing what you're going to be doing with the showdown? What is your take on that in terms of, having the ability to express yourself?
It's very, very cathartic. And, commissions are great, but also just getting it off your chest is great too. So I think that's what's important about the showdown, is we work all year, and to come into an event and have no constraint really, other than like a time constraint, because we have to, file a permit, is rewarding for sure.
And tell us about the flower that you had painted. We were just showing it, that one there, because that looks like a fluorescent type of flower. And that's part of what you use at the Saginaw Tattoo Company, right?
Yeah, that's just neon style.
Neon. I said fluorescent, I meant neon.
Neon style graffiti. It's been pretty popular for a really long time. It's just me putting my own take on it and exploring, having no rules.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that, and I was like, wow, I had to take a second look, because I thought, is the lights on in the background? Jonathan, we have our first comment for this show. Tell our listeners exactly what Anthony Birdie Rendon is saying.
Yeah, we've got a comment that says, big thumbs up to these two for sparking the mural movement here. Glad to be able to participate and help both with their projects and events. Can't wait to see what's next. Call me for the next mural.
Hey, Birdie. Yeah, he actually helped Freddie Diaz with the mural in La Estrella that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that was so wonderful last year with Freddie Diaz, because I was familiar with Freddie, being that I know Southwest Detroit. I go down there quite a bit. We distribute the magazine down there as well. And he had some phenomenal murals with some mariachis that he did. And I was, man, in my heart, I'm always like, I want Saginaw to have this. I want, this is so beautiful. Why don't we have these murals? And why don't we have artists doing these types of things? Why don't we have a Freddie Diaz? That's, my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, Freddie Diaz shows up one day at one of the beautiful businesses that are at the heart of the Latino community. And he's painting a beautiful mural of Santos and Bernada that actually depict them in this mural. It's just beautiful. And of course, the concha, he did a beautiful concha, which is the Mexican bread, the sweet bread. And so that's why I say, it's really at the heart of the Latino community, because we love conchas, don't we? But anyways, Freddie Diaz he's doing his thing. I saw a beautiful mural he's doing of Frida Kahlo for a restaurant, and it was just beautiful. And it's wonderful to see that. And so, props to you guys are there. Like Birdie says, that you've made this movement here in Saginaw. It's so important, not only, to celebrate diversity, which it is, I believe, but also just in the art world. You know,
Mhm.
we haven't had that, I don't think, in the past. What is your take, Cassie?
One of the things that the Great Mural Project's goals is to lift up Saginaw artists. So that was one of the reasons that we're doing this utility box project, and we do plan to continue because we're able to hire so many artists at a smaller scale. So we have students who are currently at the tech center taking graphic design or different art programs, all the way up to, I mean, John Vasquez is doing one of them, and Devon Collins is doing one of them, and he's amazing. I don't know how familiar you guys are with him either, but we have amazing artists here in Saginaw, and we have people who are just beginning, but seeing the graffiti showdown, just having events that you can go to in person and watch somebody doing art, doing something that you think is just your hobby and trying to figure out how it can be a career is huge and so important.
Do you have the utility box picture with the different artists? Because I want them to mention names of some of the other artists that have participated within, because you had 15 that were done in all around Saginaw.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, you got them on Janes and Johnson Streets and on
Yep.
Holland. Do you know any of the names of those artists?
Most of them actually are newer artists to us. Luckily, we were able to we went back to a bunch of the artists that have applied before and sent out invitations to apply for this because doesn't take quite as much skill for most of them. The ones that we've worked with before was Devon and John, as I mentioned, Kuda, Alexis, Behringer. We've worked with her just kind of on the sidelines. We've been familiar with her. Hers is right next to John's, and she has a really cool style. It's kind of like psychedelic. And then Laura Metcalf, she's doing one with a partner on Genesee. She's another person that we've worked with before as well. Oh, and Ben Champagne. He's a well-known artist
Yes.
in the area and all creative person.
Yeah, definitely. And, it must be a challenge to kind of find the artists and, in terms of, selecting who's involved with the project and all. But I see you got quite a variety, and that's wonderful. And who's this guy with the glasses there? The sunglasses.
Yeah, I think that's the same picture you have.
Yeah,
That's too cool. That's too cool.
It's too cool. Well, I want to mention, when you bring creative minds together, it's just really an awesome thing. And I am sitting here with John Vasquez and Cassi Zimmerman, and we've got this Saginaw Taco Fest coming up that we talk about on this show because it's just growing leaps and bounds, and we had over 500 shares just on the initial flyer, and I said, hey John, would you like to be a part of the Saginaw Taco Fest? And I think that would be great to incorporate art.
I'm down.
And what would you see or envision if you did maybe invite some of your friends, or we just have, because people love watching artists.
As long as we got the room, spray
Yeah.
paint kind of blows, so we don't want to get too out of control, but it could be cool. Where is it? It's at the Jolt?
Nope, it's at the Sarah Automotive Group on Bay Road.
Oh, okay.
And they're parking. They have on the south end of the Sarah Chevrolet. They have a nice area where it's open, and right now they don't have new cars,
Right? Yeah, inventory.
So in the inventory, so they generously have opened that up for us to have the Taco Fest there.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's part of that collaboration, working together and unifying. And I think it's really important that we continue in that mode. We've all taken a hit in these last couple of years, and I think as we have come where we're now more involved and we're having these different events, it's important that we all work together and try to move in collaboration. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to have you guys at the Taco Fest because, as you know, tacos have become really popular, right?
Tacos are always popular.
Yeah, but I don't think
The Strella and their tortillas, so they're the best in town.
Yeah.
Besides like Maria Elena's, they're my two tops. So,
well, 10 years ago, I don't know if we would have been able to have a Taco Fest.
True.
in the area. So, like I said, the pendulum is shifting, and, there's much more acceptance. And I see it across the board, not only in Saginaw, but across the state of Michigan. And taco fests are big right now. The taco,
Mhm.
not just tacos, but the food truck. The food truck has become the entity that you want to be involved with for the summer events, right?
Mhm.
If you have an event like Party on McCarty, whatever, they're bringing in the different food trucks. The Jolt Credit Union, they're having their monthly food taste off or what have you. So
Mhm.
food is at the heart. I've said it before. Food is at the heart of everything in any successful event. But if you combine that, you combine it with art, and you combine it with music, that's a recipe
Great
for
combo.
success.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
isn't it? So, we invite you. We're so happy to, include as many people as we can, because Saginaw has a lot to offer. And I think that's what you're proving with your art talent in the murals.
Mhm.
What's your take on that? Because the artist, what's
I
happening.
feel like we're really spoiled around here. I've
In what way?
traveled quite a bit, and there's not too many places that are as unique as Saginaw, and our diversity, it's a true melting pot without having to try, if that makes any sense. We already have our identity, and all the strife that we've had to deal with everything closing, jobs leaving, money issues, it kind of adds to the art. It brings character into it that you don't get other places. And there's a lot of cities that pay into creating this idea, but we don't have to. It's already here. So I think it's really helpful to add new events on, because they gain momentum without having to try very hard.
Yeah. And Cassie, from what John has just said, how has that affected the Great Mural Project?
So we don't generally do events, unfortunately. When we threw the one event, the Paint-a-thon, it was a crazy amount of work. So kudos on all the events that you're involved in. But yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that Saginaw could have 100 more events a year. We need something going on in Old Town, like the showdown every month at least.
agree.
I
I
mean,
agree
we
too.
need so much more. I would love you to bring this Taco Fest to Old Town.
Wow, wouldn't that be something? Yeah, that's something that I've talked about. I remember years ago we had something in Old Town with the car clubs, the lowrider car
Yeah.
club, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It really was. And then it just never happened again for whatever reason, and I think there was some resistance. So that's where I'm seeing a change and difference.
Yeah, we're ready. I think it's a great idea. I think both of us are down with shutting streets down and just doing it.
Now,
Mhm.
do you see that there is an ease with that today, shutting down streets, and, because I deal with that too with the Cinco de Mayo festival, of course. And, they've worked with us through the years. I mean, we've had the Cinco de Mayo for a long time, but how is it for the artists and, even the art festival that just happened there?
I think as long as there isn't too many events stacked on top of each other, it's okay. But at the same time, I don't know if I really care. I think we could have as many events as possible, and I'd be happy with that too.
Me too. And I think the city has changed. I think their mindset has changed a lot. And they've realized that placemaking is what you need to make a city successful. I mean, look at Bay City. We're competing with them directly. People going there for all of their events. And so it's just growing in importance.
Yeah, I like that. Jonathan, you had a comment?
Yeah, this thought's been brewing in my mind because it's something John said there about how Saginaw already has its own kind of flavor. Saginaw has
our identity.
Its own identity. Saginaw doesn't have to manufacture an identity.
You don't have to pay for none of it.
I know. And thinking through what you said there, look at all the communities around us and see they're trying to piece together, okay, who are we? Saginaw already has that.
Yep.
And I think what we're seeing now
Very
is
brash about it too. So
it's being built on.
Yep.
And I think that's awesome.
And it's being shared in a way where I haven't seen as well, like on shows like this. We have only been in existence with Mi Gente on Air for a year and almost 2 years, actually, believe it or not. Wow, Cassie, that went really fast, didn't it? I think you were on one of the very first shows, actually. But it's important that we have a voice at the table. We've said this on the show, but in part of celebrating diversity and having shows like Mi Gente on Air, you're going to touch a whole different base than what you typically would have without us. And I think that's the case even with the art world. If you have more diversity, you have more artists, even from outside of Saginaw that contribute, it's going to just, be like a flower that's blooming. Wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Well, and the only way that we can tell our story is by convincing the people inside our donut first, but then convincing the people outside of it as well. So all of the work tying back to working with the Flint Art Project, I mean, we're taking their artists, but they're taking ours. We're back and forth. And when anybody comes to Saginaw to work and then they leave and they're like, oh, that was such a cool community, I'm so glad I got to work with them. I mean, Freddie continuously talks about how much he loved to work in Saginaw. That's just spreading the good news about Saginaw to all of the people in Detroit that he interacts with.
Yeah, definitely. John, you were going to say something?
I think any outside influence isn't necessarily bad. As far as art is concerned, I really want that here. I would like to see as many different artists as I possibly can because it's good inspiration. Being an artist professionally, you run into being stagnant sometimes. It really helps having a fresh take, fresh outlook, different perspective. Every artist does things so differently. So even watching somebody work can really change how you do things.
Yeah. And you have proclaimed that you're a self-taught artist for the last, 10 years?
Shoot, I've been doing art since as long as I can remember. Yeah, I've never taken an art class or anything.
Wow. Look at what he's producing. That's talent, isn't it? Val Blanco says, looking forward to seeing more murals in the area. So we definitely, I think that, again, it's a generational shift. But I think that it also helps, like my generation, be more accepting as well. When we see the young people that are, showcasing this talent and they're showcasing the beauty of art in a way that's different than what previous generations may have seen, it's always, more beneficial for all of us, for the greater community. Wouldn't you say that?
Definitely.
Yeah, because it's definitely something that I have felt that maybe within our community there may have been resistance to having murals because we just didn't see them for years. I remember them talking about doing a mural in downtown Saginaw, and I'm talking years ago, but they were going to highlight some of the Latino leaders in the community, and it got shut down big time, even after there was fundraising for the money. And I knew this because my dad was asked, to put up money for this mural, and it just never happened. And that was sad to see. But I think that if we, attempted something like that in the future with the Great Mural Project or what have you, I think it's plausible now. I think it could happen. So tell me, what is in store for the Great Mural Project in the next coming months, or even because I seen a notice where mural coming, right?
So, we have signs posted outside of all the utility boxes. So that's where the mural coming is coming from. So that's the only project that we're doing this year. We got a little bit of a late start. We thought we were going to do it earlier and then maybe we would have something in the fall. But we do have a couple larger murals hopefully planned for downtown next year. And we plan to continue doing the utility boxes for as long as the city continues to give us utility boxes to paint. So that's hopefully we'll bring in some really professional, either from Saginaw or not. We have an application process to select our artists. So for the larger ones, really big professional, we have some designs already picked out for one of them, and then utility box paintings tomorrow or
That's
next
awesome.
year.
That's awesome. John, September 17th is the second showdown. It is going to be bigger probably than last year. Tell me what your take is going to be on this showdown, and what would you say to the greater community to invite them?
I think the first year was just getting the jitters out, you know what I mean? And figuring out exactly how everything was going to go. I was really stressed out last year. So this year, I'm going into it a little bit more of a level head, and I think maybe I'll have a little bit more fun, if that makes any sense. We're going to have a couple more food trucks than we did last year. We're going to have our vendors out again. At some point, we're going to try to expand it a little bit more. I really wanted to include a car club this year, but I feel like spray paint and really nice Impalas. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I don't want to ruin anybody's stuff. So maybe at some point in the future, including like a live band would be nice at some point in the day, even making it a 2-day event and like colliding other events with it. So it can be a whole weekend. And yeah, I don't know, future and beyond.
Wow. Well, partnering with different entities in the community, I mean, that's what makes things great. So, I mean, if you need my help, I'm
Yes.
willing to help.
Cool.
Because
Awesome.
like I said, I love Old Town. I live there. I work there. I spend most of my time there. I'm walking, trying to get healthy there. So in part of when I'm out there walking, the beautiful murals that I have seen that are popping up, and it really adds to the psyche of my mind while I'm out there, because that's part of what I talk about health, what we went through within the pandemic, and we all needed that little bit of help. And, just to see the colors and the vibrancy, especially if you're walking down in the bridge, or over the bridge, and you see the butterflies from the Great Mural Project, or what you've done, John. I mean, it really helps in the health of the mind, I think. And I think that's where we're all kind of searching and going for. And I'm so happy to see
getting out of the house. Out of the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, John Vasquez, for being with us tonight. Cassi Zimmerman, it's always a pleasure. And you guys are doing some great things for our community. So let's applaud them and support them and be there for the showdown on September 17th, because you can go right up to the artists, talk to them. They're going to be willing to talk with you and be a part of this great community that we call Saginaw, right? So thank you so much, everybody. It's been a pleasure. We've had a double whammy tonight with 2 shows of Mi Gente on Air, and we visited Old Town Saginaw, and it's just been wonderful to promote the area. So thank you so much. As I always say, hasta luego. We'll see you next week on Mi Gente on Air. So thank you so much. Those of you that are in the room, Johnny Martinez is the one that did the mural for the Habitat for Humanity. And he's a Bridgeport graduate that had Manuel Lopez as the art teacher. He was the art teacher there for over 25 years. I believe he was my art teacher way back in the 80s. But that mural, how did that come about? Do you know anything about that one, the Habitat?
We were involved just a little bit just to give them advice, because they were doing it similarly to how the Great Mural Project has done other murals. So they did it on marine board plywood so that they could do it with their class and the students. So they had quite a few people working on that mural. And everybody shown in the mural is either a current or past volunteer boardman
of the Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
And I walk that way too. And I will look at that, and it's beautiful, because then I go over that bridge, which is the Holland Street Bridge. And then I go into the bridge that goes into the island, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't realize what we have in this community, really. And to walk over into the island and just, to see the greenery of the island and the waters there. And then I look over and I see Old Town from a distance. It's just beautiful. It really is. And I say that from an eye of going. Last year, I went to Croatia for 2 months to get away, to heal, and I travel a lot to Europe, and I see the beauty of Europe, and I love Europe. And I think Saginaw is great too. I mean, we have just as, unique, beautiful entities within our community as well. And that's why I, promote it. And I think the art that you're doing, John, in the mural project, I'm so excited about that. I love it. I love the whole idea. When Flint started their mural project, I was like, man, I wish that would happen in Saginaw, and you know what? It's happening. It's happening. It took a little while, but we're there, we're getting there, and it's going to continually grow, I think, and when Freddie Diaz came into town, that was it. I was like, wow, this is really cool. So thank you both again for being with me tonight. I think that this has been a wonderful show, because we're promoting the arts here in Saginaw. So any last comments?
I appreciate you having me on.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Anything to boast about Saginaw.
Yes. Isn't that awesome? All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.